X Factor number 5 is a post-Ten of Swords follow-up to Leah Williams and David Baldeon's first arc on the series, tackling issues of mutant resurrection across Ten of Swords and Mojoworld, while delivering the biggest mutant party this side of House of X number 6. Today I'll answer, what do we know about Rockslide's resurrection, and what does it mean for Gorgon, who also perished in Otherworld? Who the heck is Academy X? Who are these kids, and why won't they get off my lawn? Do you really want a Krakoan slice of life book, or do you just think you do, in theories and predictions for what's to come? Hey everybody, I'm Dave Busing, founder and editor-in-chief of comicbookherald.com. You are listening to Krakin Krakoa in this review of X Factor number 5. If you like the Comic Book Herald YouTube channel or Krakin Krakoa, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing, and then commenting on the videos when you got thoughts and theories and things you want to say. It all helps me out a great deal. You can find full X-Men reading orders over at comicbookherald.com. And hey, a heads up, my Reign of X teaser theories parts 2 and 3 will be coming this weekend. So subscribe to the Comic Book Herald channel for all the Krakin Krakoa goodies that are coming. Oh, and finally, spoilers for Discussed Comics may follow. Writer Leah Williams, artist David Baldeon, colors by Israel Silva, letters by Joe Caramagna. So we open here with Adam X, our guy, the notorious would-be third Summers brother. He did, in fact, kill Winddancer for his Mojoworld stream. Winddancer, a.k.a. Sophia here, one of the original Academy X new X-Men, new mutants, and more or less he does so per her request. And we open this really somber scene of X Factor and the 5 watching this video, because again, everything on Mojoworld is live streamed. Now, Adam X, I suppose to his credit, I mean, he gives Sophia an out. He's like, this is, weird and gross, and we have to do this stuff. And she's like, no, this is my out to get out of Mojoworld. Now, we don't spend a lot of time on it here in this issue, and the cartoonish style and these bold colors, sort of betray this, but X Factor is kind of making Mojo actually scary. Like these live streams and all these mutants and mind wipes, and the way he's got this like world run right now, it's actually a pretty gross place, and I'm definitely interested to see X Factor explore more of it. And then we do also see the 5 here, so the 5 are in charge of the resurrection protocols on Krakoa. It opens with them discussing some hesitancy to reopen resurrections following the Rockslide fiasco during Ten of Swords, which was Rockslide died in Otherworld during one of the initial strikes. It was in the first issue, creation of the Ten of Swords event, and when they brought him back, he came back weird, okay? We're going to talk a little bit about what that means. So they're exploring what happened to Rockslide, and X Factor is on the case, namely Rachel Summers. She explores what's really going on with Rockslide, why he is not, coming back as himself via Krakoan resurrection. And Rachel seems to uncover that Rockslide, probably the biggest part of the problem, is he's basically the equivalent of a newborn. Like, his memories go back approximately 1 week to when he was resurrected via a post Ten of Swords. So like this Rockslide entity can speak, it has language, like it's not literally a baby, but its memories don't go back very far at all. And what we heard in the initial sort of summation of, okay, what actually happened here, what went wrong, it was like, Rockslide is now a conglomeration of the multiverse of Rockslides, okay? But it's not like Legion. It's not like a situation where he's got all these different multiverse versions of Santo Rockslide in his head. It's just like there's too much there. It's all meshed together and nothing is coming out right. So he's just this really simple, big rock guy that seemingly can't do much of anything than speak very, very simple little things, And I will say too, like, there's this issue in Hellions, I had this thought as well. There's a lot of moments for me where I'm like, where's the, Araka is here now content in these comics? Because there's a whole other mutant nation that is coming. Listen, I'm sure we're going to get it in the Reign of X, but frankly, like, anything talking about post Ten of Swords without acknowledging that is kind of strange to me. We do see here, like, one page of this, but it's Emma Frost shown grieving Rockslide, which I really appreciate that Leah Williams takes a moment to give Emma Frost and Danny Moonstar here this moment. Now, Emma Frost, the reason I think she has become such an interesting character for so many people is like her as the educator, as this caretaker of the children, of mutant children specifically. There's a lot of history there, right? We see Emma do that very early, even in her like supervillain days with the Hellions, the original Hellions, versus the New Mutants in the 80s, and then she's done it with Gen X. She's, of course, doing it on Genosha when Grant Morrison takes over New X-Men. There's all these instances where Emma, she really, really cares, right? She actually deeply cares, and despite the exterior persona and all the strength that she brings to the table, that actually gets addressed here, that she's, allowing herself to be be hurt because she continues to care. And I think it's important with Rockslide, especially because it's almost easy to bypass, like, oh, well, he's simple and can't be himself now, but it's Emma's actually treating the one, she's the one treating this like a death. And it is, because Santho is not the same as when he, went into Otherworld, and that is a loss, or, at least at this point in time. So let's say too, like, okay, yes, there's this Emma moment. This issue is all over the map. Okay, X Factor number 5 goes everywhere. I mean, the pacing and just like the directions that this thing goes, it is absolutely all over the place. If you've ever said you wanted a Krakoan slice of life book, I think this is the one, because it's just like, we're going to touch on as many moments and as many characters as we can fit into a single issue. And I found that somewhat jarring at times, I will admit. It was definitely like, okay, what is the focus? What is the through line here? I think it's to the issue's detriment in some regard, but if you're the person who just loves seeing all these different X-Men and a lot of like different mutants we haven't seen before, I think X Factor number 5 is really going to hit, especially if you're a big fan of Academy X. Okay, so Sophia, Wind Dancer, she's brought back via resurrection from Mojoworld, because that wasn't a problem like Otherworld was, and she kind of bypasses the Crucible, this need to be repowered, because she was a prisoner on Mojoworld, and I guess they kind of give her an out in that regard, where it's like, yeah, that was her only escape. Elixir does mention that re-entry into Krakoan life can be aided by familiar faces, so the whole dang team of new X-Men Academy X show up for a straight-up party. This is the side of Krakoan culture that I really do enjoy getting to see, like all these mutants that we really haven't got to spend a lot of time with. We get Julian Keller, aka the Hellion here, who's not on the Hellions team in Marvel right now, but he's, shows up to greet Sophia with both his hands, which is a big thing if you've read X-Men comics over the last, the 2000s. For their part, the Academy X, okay, they are like, they are introduced in the series New X-Men after Grant Morrison is done with New X-Men, okay? So Morrison writes New X-Men from 2001 to 2004, and then post-Morrison in like 2004 in the X-Men Reload era, New X-Men relaunches as a book about actual new X-Men, right? So it becomes basically like a New Mutants type series with all these different kid X-Men of the 2000s. So we have characters that, I mean, some of the most well-known, I think, are like Rockslide, Elixir, who's one of the 5. You have Prodigy, who's on X Factor. I mentioned Hellion here. And there are others, of course, and Sophia is definitely not one of the most well-known, but she's a part of that unit, right? You have a whole group of young mutants who we haven't got to spend a lot of time with. So it is cool, I think, that Williams is integrating them into this story. I also really like David Baldeon and Curiel's art here, making these moments look absolutely incredible, right? Like Sophia's resurrection is so naturally well lit. Somewhere Frank Lloyd Wright is doing cartwheels over Krakoan architecture and the way it gets light spotlights on these moments. It's so well designed. Stylistically, I do also love the Boneyard data page mirrored, not specifically the data page, which I actually was like, why are we doing this? But I love it mirrored with a panel layout that showcases each of the team members in their various spaces. So we get on one hand like a schematic a la, early Jack Kirby days, the Fantastic Four Baxter building about, okay, what's in each room. We get that for X Factor's headquarters, but then we actually get a like panel by panel layout of what's going on in all those various spaces, which I thought was a really neat way to pair those ideas together. We do get mention here of Gorgon's resurrection from Otherworld. We also got like a brief mention in Hellions. Elixir mentions here that Gorgon is acting strangely, which, like, of course, like, why would we expect anything else? I mean, I guess it's a case study of one with Rockslide, where he came back, after dying in Otherworld and was weird, but Gorgon, also died in Otherworld. The fact that he'd be acting strangely is no, surprise at all. I am curious to see, like, is Gorgon acting strangely in ways that are different than Rockslide is, like that would actually be interesting. X Factor also makes the same mistake I've been making, only muddying the waters, calling the Hellions' death an Amenth death, although I guess this is technically true, since dying in Araco, while it wasn't in Amenth, means dying in Amenth, but frankly that only matters if you are coming from the Hellions video in Krakoa number whatever it was, 127. So this issue does end after a huge, so I guess I skipped over, like, yeah, they have a big party, because Sophia is back from resurrection, and it's nice to see Krakoan culture lean into, like, hey, we're going to enjoy this moment because it's a miracle. Like, we just brought somebody back from death, repower them. That's a big deal. Academy X, X Factor, everybody gets to have, like, a good post Ten of Swords party, which, good for them. But then not so good for them. This ends with the Siren's mysterious death. Siren is the daughter of Banshee, has similar powers, and she has seemingly fallen to her death, which will set up the next arc, I am sure. I'm definitely still here for Murder Mystery X Factor. I think that's actually like a part of why I have such excitement about this book potentially, is the general concept. This issue didn't hit for me, I think, in the ways that some of the past ones have, because it's a slice of life book. It's about the culture. It's about these characters. And it's cool to see, but it didn't necessarily like thrill me, I think, the way it might, huge fans of these characters in this world. Not to say that I'm not a fan of this world, but anyway, I'm excited to see X Factor get back to actually exploring these mysteries and really digging into Resurrection. Like, definitely the piece that I probably grabbed onto the most was, Rachel and X Factor being like, all right, let's explore what it means for Rockslide to have resurrected via Otherworld, except the answer was very unsatisfactory, in my opinion. It was just like, yeah, he resurrected a week ago, and that's all he knows, and that's all we know, and that doesn't actually tell us a lot about what that means or what could be happening for Rockslide. Like, is there any way to get him back? Are we accepting that, like, this is Rockslide now, and there's absolutely no way to change that, and then what does that mean for Gorgon? I feel like there could be a lot more to that story that we're not really getting here. But I am curious to see how this team is going to continue to investigate. Again, I have full confidence in this creative unit. I think Leah Williams and David Baldeon are doing fantastic work. And I think Williams probably is like my favorite of the new guard X-Men writers, the ones who don't have like a huge history of writing Marvel Comics. I think Williams has done stuff like her Emma Frost, what was it? Not King in Black. That's a different thing. Black King one shot is fantastic. I like her Gwenpool stuff quite a bit. So anyway, X Factor is going to be good, I have no doubt. This issue didn't blow my mind, but hopefully it did for you. Let me know in the comments below. Next time, the Krakoan reads Scream, which of course is going to be a reference to Siren. We know from the solicits. We're going to dig into what happened there. I do also want to mention that I have my Reign of X promo teaser theories parts 2 and 3 coming this weekend, as I mentioned earlier. Again, you can find part 1 on Krakin Krakoa. Again, subscribe and all that fun stuff for ways to get the most from Krakin Krakoa videos. And then, of course, I've got links in the show notes to the various playlists and things where you can find all that fun stuff. Thanks to everybody who supports Comic Book Herald over on patreon.com/Comic Book Herald. Your support is greatly appreciated. If you can't or don't want to do that, just go on over to comicbookherald.com. Like and subscribe to the videos here. Follow me on social at Comic Book Herald. All that stuff helps me out a good deal as well. And keep watching and listening, and that is probably the best thing that you can do, and I appreciate you for doing it. So I'm Dave. Again, you can find my stuff at comicbookherald.com. Look for the best comics ever on My Marvelous Year podcast for more from me. Thanks everybody for listening, and as always, enjoy the comics.